What is up, everybody? Welcome to a new Headless Magical Mailbag. I've got new stuff that I'm working on. So if you appreciate the audio quality, it's because I got a better mic and these headphones.
Hell yeah.
How you doing, Nick?
Good. Very good. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. You got anything special coming up on the agenda with the Cult Rejects?
Later on today, after this, we're going live with Brian Corey Dobbs. I know when it comes to planets and the moon and stuff out in the skies, people are a little iffy about what's out there. But this guy is covering using stuff that NASA has put out themselves, actually showing that there's proof that they're saying there's life in this shit there. So should be interesting. These guys putting out a movie on it. He gave me the screener to check out, and I met him at the Cosmic Summit. Cool guy, so I figured I'd have him on. Be interesting.
I love that topic because it gets into what we were talking about before, the electric universe and all the rest of this stuff, having to do with acoustics and having to do with resonance and all the rest of these things that the ancients were talking about when it came to planets. And now we're told they're stagnant, they're dead, they're, hundreds of thousands or millions of miles away, and there's nothing you can do about it, but we still see the effects. So what's that, Yeah. And people got to start thinking about these things. It doesn't matter if they're coming to wrong conclusions, just as long as you're not married to them. Keep that open mind and see what comes of it.
I like that. Just don't be married to them. Yeah, have that open mind. You could always be wrong or for new ideas. Yeah. You know what he even said himself, just for people that might be listening, this isn't going to go into the whole UFO alien thing, because he even said right now what sucks is that people are so stuck on the alien UFO thing. He's like, I'm not sure if this will really get the attention at first, because people are still so stuck on, oh, I want to see aliens. Well, there's proof that there was shit on another planet, but I ain't got aliens for it. Like,
right.
Interesting.
Maybe we're the aliens,
I've thought that when I was younger for a while, actually. Yeah.
Well, so tonight, let's get into it right off the bat. Let's go with this. Look at that. We got people in the chat.
Oh, I didn't even check the chat yet. Shit.
Yeah. I got my symbol here. This is the Marine Pith Hat. Now, if you guys have been in the Marines or you've been around Marines, you probably don't recognize it because you've got to get to the shooting days. So the shooting days for a company in the Marine Corps includes the NCO officers in charge putting this pith hat on while the other people are shooting. So these are the instructor caps. Anytime you've got a problem with your weapon, you need somebody, you're going to go to the guy with the pith hat. Now it's got this fake fake fabric that's all ruffled up in a row on top of there, and it's made out of some pretty toxic chemicals, but this is a powerful symbol for mind control. And a lot of people who've been in the Marines are like, how is that? It's actually really simple. So the pith hat is where the drill sergeants, drill instructors for the Marine Corps have to take a step back and not be so aggressive. And the best way that the Marine Corps could come up with to get them out of that personality of drill instructor and into a different, less aggressive, more calm state of mind is to introduce the pith hat. And when they put it on, they start talking differently. They start calling everybody gents. They're much more kinder and patient because everybody has weapons and they don't want this to be a repeat of that classic movie,
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
So what this is mind control, not for the students who are doing the shooting at the KD range. This is for the instructors to get them outside of their head as drill instructors and mean badasses. They've got to step it back. And when they put on the pith hat, it's not that you can get away with more stuff. They're actually poised and ready to kill you in an instant when they've got this on. But they have to remain calm so that you don't freak out and start shooting people accidentally. That's very important when you're on the firing range, especially the KD range. So they call it a KD range because it's known distance. It's different from the pop-ups, right? So I've done a KD range once in June, And this is how I know about it, because I was in the Army. I didn't really have any experience with Marines other than shooting at the KD range. And so I thought, this is a pretty good symbol for that, because I could see the difference in the drill instructors when they put on the pith hat versus when they did not have it on. And, to me, it's kind of weird. But if you think about it, like, this has the connotation of more British, gentlemanly type colonization mentality. It's a booty, not a booty cap. What are they? It got safari hat, all the rest of these different names, and it's got a very generic descriptor on the magazines where they're selling these things to the different leagues. But really, this keeps your men, straightened out while they're on the firing range, while also keeping your drill instructors from freaking out on them because they've shifted into a different personality by wearing a different thing. This is why everybody's in uniform, because it's a powerful mind control technique. You're trying to get everybody thinking the same way, so you get them all dressing the same way. This is the fundamentals about magic. You've got to change your outward appearance to start influencing that inner world. This is why they're doing it. This is a form of battle magic.
I think this shit is wild. Like, when you had even told me about, like, even just the slang or the language changing, I'm like, oh, that is like it's all, like, to me, very MK Ultras. You're even going to start talking differently and use different slang when you get to this. What the fuck?
It's called code switching. So if you're in one role and you speak a certain way, and then you enter a different role, you speak a different way, that's called code switching. You've got the different lexicons that are now interchangeable. And that lexicon switch is very important for when you're talking to other soldiers in this context. They know what role you're in based off of the language you're using, the new lexicon, the new list of words. So it's a good reminder for both parties where you're at and what you're supposed to be doing. This is no place to eat crayons. And if you're a Marine, you will get that joke.
Not a place to eat bullets either.
Right. This is not the time for fooling around. While at the same time, it's not the time for them to be messing with you. No messing around on the KD range. If you look down at the very back there, you'll see what it means to be a KD range versus a pop-up target. You see that berm way back in the background on that picture? That's what he's firing his weapon at. Now, behind that berm are the soldiers that are manning and operating those targets. So you've got people back behind there who pull down the targets, put the little holes or cover the little holes with something that can be seen, per each round that you're firing, and then they put them back up. So now you and your drill instructor can see exactly where you're hitting on those targets, even though they're really far away. Now, on this KD range, you can move forward or farther away for qualification. So the further away you are, you're going to have, more shots missed. But this is different from the pop-up targets that we had in the Army, which were at varying distances, and you could hit them anywhere on the target to make them fall down. So if you just get a grazing shot at 300 meters, that target's still going to fall down. These targets at the KD range are still bullseyes, so you're going to have to zero it in right there at that middle point. So I think the KD range also provides way more feedback when it comes to how you're shooting and everything else, because at the pop-up range, you don't know where you're hitting these targets. So if you're qualifying on a KD range, you're going to be much better off, I think, than if you're using pop-up targets. But it's so much more dangerous. I was back there manning those targets, and you hear every shot coming out of that rifle, and it's so much different when you're in front of the rifle versus when you're behind it.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
It is
completely different sound. Yeah.
And being on the wrong end of a rifle, you'll remember that sound. So it also trains you as you're operating back there, and you've got all the brass from these bullets that are shredding apart and hitting different things falling down around you. It's a simulation of the combat environment, and you've got to keep your head. You've got to stay cool. You've got to make sure that you're not going to get hit back behind that berm. So I think it's a better training environment than pop-up targets. The Army wouldn't agree with me, but again, all of this has to work seamlessly together so that people don't get hurt on the range. And if you look at the track record for Marines operating on the range, they actually have a lot better safety rating than a lot of the Army. Army's trying the same tricks where the drill instructors will swap out hats on their ranges, but it doesn't have the same effect because I think it's not as potent a symbol. They started using this fake sort of, safari looking hat back in the 1930s. So all throughout World War II, they had these all throughout. So it's got a long tradition of use. I think they discontinued it in 2017, but I got out in 2013, so I wouldn't know. But I thought it was a potent symbol, so I thought I'd bring that with me.
Hell yeah. No, I thought that was really interesting. When you even just whatever you little bit you text me about, I was like, damn. Okay. What you told me about with the stuff with like the language change and everything, I was like, oh, that was like so fucking like programmed. That's just weird. Like you said, the lexicon. You'll get a different soldier probably when they hear different phrases. Oh, I'm supposed to be in this fucking right now. It's wild.
But I mean, it's very useful when you're managing a lot of people.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they're not very smart.
Yeah, no. I mean, I get you for sure.
Put on my serious hat.
Yeah. Somebody put in there my hat. I'm better than you because of this hat or something like that.
Right.
I have a better hat. Listen to me. Yeah. All right. Well, for me today, I actually got two things. They kind of go together. It's Galpadar and Ginfaxi, if I'm saying those correct. I don't know. Maybe Headless, you've heard of them. I might be saying them wrong.
I have no idea.
Yeah. This is one of them, and then that's the other one. There's a couple of them here. I'll throw them up on the screen so you can look at them a little bit right now. Just get an idea. Yeah.
Galdrastafir.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting right there too. But all right, let me get back to my notes. Sorry, I just wanted to throw those up. They are noted to go back to around anywhere between and these are Icelandic. They're going back to around 1600 to 1650. They show up in a book, Galdrabook, and that is a 17th century grimoire, and it's in the Swedish Antiquarium Archive in Stockholm. If anybody wants to check it out, I guess. And spell 34 in that book names Galpadar among victory, and Ginfaxi appears in the same circle of charms. In 1847, it shows back up in the Huld manuscript, which is in the National Library of Iceland. And that is including, it has the illustrations of Galpadar and Ginfaxi in there as well. And then this I found interesting, which is probably one of the reasons why I went with it as well, is that oral tradition from the 19th to the 20th century records wrestlers carving or drawing the pair on calfskin and then hiding them in their shoes before a bout. And the Galpadar is supposed to be slipped under the right heel, and the Ginfaxi is under the left hose, supposedly. Galpadar, which I think is the two horizontal beams with branching claws. Let's see which one that is. I have that one up. Let me go to the right one. Here we go. So people know what I'm talking about. That one, it's supposed to keep the wrestler steady on his feet. That's what they would use it for. And then the other one, Ginfaxi, that fills the fighter with virility and forward drive. Inscription, however, they use historically, sometimes they were drawn in blood. Coal, suit, like a suit from the whatever burnt stuff, and carved into calfskin. Charging it would be recitation of a short Galdralag charm while breathing onto the stave. Deployment or how else you could use it. People would sew it sometimes into stuff, or they would the wrestlers would simply just put it in their shoes. But sometimes they would sew it to stuff. Then after the victory, the charms were burned or buried under a crossroads to avoid unwanted backfire. And how we see it today, combat sports and reenactment, Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms in in Reykjavik stencil a pair on their mats. especially the two that I just shown, a lot of them will put that on their socks. You see it in jewelry and tattoos and Etsy and stuff. Neo-pagan rituals, sometimes you will still see them. And it has been shown in pop culture. It's featured in a video game, rune sets, and Nordic-themed graphic novels. So, yeah, it still does kind of like pop up today, but it was something a little bit older and kind of not known. And for some reason, I don't know why it's attached to wrestling. So I was just like, I guess when I knew that his was attached to like, the arms for, whatever. I was just like, well, this kind of goes with something else, so I'll run with this. I just thought it was weird. I mean, because I remember even covering, I think, occult wrestling on Greyhorn's Pagans podcast. And there did seem to be like a lot of Norse that I came across when I was looking into that. So even when I saw this and it was Icelandic, I was like, damn, I wish I would have had this then. This is interesting. I just find that weird. It's something wrestlers use.
Do you know the history of Iceland when it comes to practicing magic?
No, I really don't actually.
Oh, you're going to love it. So Iceland was a very unique place. When they were making the Christian reforms in all of Norway, Iceland, Sweden, all the rest of that, there were a whole bunch of people who were practicing magic in those areas. And they're like, well, we're not Christian. You need to stop this. What are you doing? So they decided to all flee to Iceland. So for hundreds of years, the official, religion of Iceland was this sort of magic system that came from the Norse pagans.
Yeah, that's pretty.
And what a lot of these staves are from is actually from earlier Christian chants and charms that they incorporated into their system, because the Christians did practice a lot of magic that, were on the outskirts of society, and they had other Christian traditions that were passed on to them, and they used them as, spells and, charms. That's just sort of natural because they came from those families who had that stuff, and they just Christianized their spells and charms. If they were outside of the church for too long, they started to develop these, naturally sort of occurring shapes that occurred to them as having magical powers. I don't think it's that far outside of the ordinary. And when they started this, then they had Christians move to Iceland and claim to be targeted by the black magic. So they came out there, they're like, no, you need to be Christian. And they're like, we don't want to be Christian. And they're like, stop hurting me with your black magic. I'm serious. The literal Cartman's coming out there to say, you can't do this. You're putting spells on me. You have to listen to what I'm saying. And so they would go back and forth. It's like, I didn't have anything to do with your wife's death. You probably killed her. You're telling me that I put black magic on you. I didn't put any black magic on you. But now that you're saying I'm doing it, I'm going to do it 10 times harder. So that's what they did. But yeah, so, at that point. Right. And ever since then, Iceland has been very, very suspicious of Christianity. They do not like it. They see it for a bunch of people in a power trip. And so now Iceland is one of the most atheistic nations in the world because they lost touch with their roots in the modern times. And they're not going to go towards Christianity. So they're like the biggest atheists in the world. But if you bring up some of the folk legends, they still sort of participate in it. So there's little people out there on Iceland that they put up, hillside, little houses for them. And they bring food and stuff to them on certain days. But, it's more of like a folk tradition than more of a religious belief. But it sort of crosses the boundary a little bit. And they still have a very robust history of mythology and their own unique way of seeing things, and the staves go right along with that came along with their magic. Iceland is a really interesting place when it comes to magic, and a lot of people don't really think about it like that. It's one of the last surviving places where the Old Norse pagan beliefs were allowed to flourish, and mostly it was just grumpy old men that said, "You're not going to take our magic from us. We're going to leave."
That's still fucked up, though.
Yeah.
Putting black magic on me because you won't listen.
Well, I mean, the Christian form of black magic is making false accusations. So why wouldn't you do it back to them?
No. It's just like still like things haven't changed, huh? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you know, bullshit because you just don't like somebody. Fucking nuts. You know, somebody had said, Promethean said in the chat, and I actually heard him say this at the lecture. He says patterns like that, like the first one, are all over the world. Dr. Robert Schoch says that when a major solar event happens, those patterns are in the sky, kind of like sprites. He was going on about shit like that. It's interesting. I don't know what he was saying that towards. Forgot, but what did I mention it?
All right. Well, I think that the geometric form is linked to both the creation of matter and to the creation of the mind. Right. So the first things we're able to draw are these, rudimentary geometric forms. And those rudimentary geometric forms make up much more complex and interesting shapes that we then can translate into, painting or drawing or whatever you want. So these are the basic, like, bottom level that connect to both the creation of stuff, through quantum vibrations and things like that, string theory, the idea that there are these waves of energy that actually congeal into the matter that we're made out of, starting on the geometric, and then also through the thought process. So there is an as above, so below that comes directly through human creativity. So I got the first one from Pretty Bug. It says, "It's me, Pretty Bug. My story has taken so long to send because I've been scared to even talk about it, much less put it into words in written text. I've been so scared because I didn't want to do anything that would cause or provoke it to happen again ever. But anyway, here it goes. I appreciate your bravery. So all I know is that my only intention was to communicate with my grandmother through dreams. She came to me in a dream after she passed, which was really awesome. That experience is what led me to try and eliciting a dream from her. I don't know the time that what I was doing was trying to elicit lucid dreaming, or so I've been told. I literally don't know squat about these things. What I did was put on my piano playlist, lied down on my back on the bed, and a hold of my labradorite stone, closed my eyes, and started to do what I would only call meditate. I started to imagine that the road to her house was a paved road that later turned into a dirt road. While walking down the road, I started to think of the house. I was thinking of what it looked like outside and inside. I thought about what it smelled like, what was probably on the TV, and what might be cooking or being made in the kitchen. All the things, LOL. I followed the road all the way to her and my grandfather's home. At some point, I realized I didn't hear my piano playlist anymore. Even after the realization, I didn't hear it again until I came out of the dream. First thing, after walking down the driveway, I went into the front door, which I don't know why, because the front door was rarely used. Definitely a garage using family. Have you noticed that? There are some places where they don't use the front door. They always go around.
I know what you mean. Yes, I have known people like that. Yeah.
Walking inside, there was a little furniture and zero pictures on top of tables. No books, no shelves, no things on the walls. There was a small table in the foyer right to my right, but it didn't have the trinkets or lamps on top of it. To my left, the china cabinet, there was nothing there, but had nothing in it. I stepped into the living room, and the TV cabinet was there on my right again and was void of anything decorative in the TV. This kind of reminds me of a mall dream. Because when you're in the mall dream, there's very rarely anything inside the stores that you can recognize as like products or whatever. It's all just sort of empty. There was only one recliner, which was my grandmother's. My grandfather's recliner was missing, along with the couch, the rug, the coffee table, and the long table that was under the windows. In the kitchen, there was only the kitchen table and nothing else. The house was pretty much bare, as if someone was moving in or moving out. I stepped into the living room, looked around. My grandmother wasn't in the house as far as I could tell. I called out for her and got no response. The house was pretty small but open. You could see both sides of the house standing in the living room or the kitchen. So upon hearing her, I walked through the kitchen and out the door. The door was always used. I looked down the driveway and spotted her in the garden. She spotted me at the same time and smiled, waving enthusiastically. Once I got to her, she asked me what I was doing there. I told her I just wanted to talk to her and that I missed her. She told me to come inside. So when we were back in the kitchen, she made me a glass of her famous sweet tea along with a sprig of mint. Her tea tasted so good you wouldn't want any other sweet tea ever again. We sat at the kitchen table and I asked her questions. I was conscious of asking and coming up with what to ask her. She would reply without me consciously making up her response, like I was when making up the questions. It was like I was truly speaking and visiting with her, so I started to visit with her more often. I think I visited her 4 or 5 more times before what happened. The more I visited her, the more things showed up in the house until even her dog showed up. Everything was back in place. Ooh, that's not good.
That's weird.
So, yeah, you remember the story of Hades and Persephone?
Not too detailed, but what about it?
Well, she ate six pomegranate seeds while she was in the underworld. Now, if you ate anything in the underworld, you were no longer allowed to leave. So, since she only ate 6 of them, she spent 6 months under the surface and then 6 months on top. But this goes back to like fairies and all the rest of this stuff. If you eat anything or if you spend too long in that other world, you start to stay there a lot more. Right.
Oh.
That's why there's more stuff. She's getting closer to it. The more I visited her, the more things showed up in the house until even her dog showed up. Everything was back in place. I still went through the front door, the door we never used. I just kept going in that way. I don't know why. I just did. After experiencing my visits with her, amazing results, I decided to visit my great-grandmother, my grandfather's mother. P.S. There's a pretty cool and interesting lineage to me and my great-grandmother that may be good to know when analyzing my experience with her. If it isn't worth anything, at least it's interesting. She was the daughter of the American colonists, daughter of the American Revolution, and member of the National Society of the Colonial Dames of the XVII century. I have all the applications she left for me as the receipts if I wanted. So that would be the 17th century? Yeah, I guess it is. Also, she lived also in a historical house named the Cedars in Washington, Georgia, which was a story in itself. She was a confectionery garden club member and mastered the piano at Juilliard. She is the most regal person I have ever known.
Nice.
Which makes sense. If you've got a long lineage here, you've got a lot to draw back on.
Yeah.
Unlike us German peasants who all we want to do is dig holes in the soil. I also recently found out the story of being directly related to Pocahontas isn't just the family rumor anymore. It's true. I am her 14th great-granddaughter. Didn't see that coming. She had our ancestry researched all the way back to the days of Charlemagne, not the rapper, who I am a very distant relative of. She's definitely in the Society of the Cincinnati. She's passing that along. Daughters of the American Revolution? No way she's not. She was once in possession of General Cornwallis's boot buckles. I think that's what they're called, etc. So I used the same method as before. I was experiencing the same result. However, this time it was very different. Instead of the house being full of light and color, it was dark, black and white. All the furniture, pictures, etc. were already there. It was also seemingly silent. Silent as in void of sound completely. I walked into the house, and halfway down the foyer, I stepped into the den and looked around. She wasn't there. I stepped back into the foyer and walked across to the living room. I found her there. She was sitting in a rocking chair by the fireplace. She was hardly ever in the house. I was calling her name until I reached her. She was sitting upright, eyes wide open, no blinking or signs of life. It stunned me, and I stepped backwards away from her. At the same time, I noticed something moving in the hallway. I stepped out into the hallway and saw a black figure with no shape to it. It looked like it was possibly hooded or had on a cape. I wanted to know who or what it was, so I followed it into the kitchen. It exited out the kitchen door into the backyard, where it shot straight up into the sky with a deafening screech. It was at that moment I sat straight up out of bed, terrified. So terrified that night that I couldn't bring myself to turn the light back off, which I had immediately turned on upon waking. The most terrified I have ever been. I've experienced a lot of things, sleep paralysis being one of the biggest things, coming face to face with a full-bodied apparition, learning the repercussions of using a Ouija board without knowing shit about it or protecting myself. That's a whole different story. Hearing voices, occasionally capturing clear, intelligent EVPs.
Oh, wow.
Let me see. I have a good bit of crazy stories. This, however, was something completely different. It was just a scary AF lucid dream. Was it a type of sleep paralysis I've never experienced of or heard of before, or it could be something more? I've been told that it could have been a couple of things, like going beyond lucid dreaming and landing somewhere else where I wasn't well. Also told my recipient of the visit wasn't open to talking or visiting. None of that makes any sense to me, though. Also told my recipient of the visit wasn't open to talking or visiting. I mentioned all of these things about my lineage, my great-grandmother, because something in me is telling me I stumbled into something or somewhere I didn't belong. Feeling that something dark is going on or did go on. As much as I hate to say this, my great-grandmother may very well have had a sketchy past that no one ever talks or talked about. Also note that I have always been attracted to her since I was little. I wasn't around her much, so it's kind of weird to feel so attracted to her. However, I've always connected to her to piano music. I've always been in love with the piano and piano music. Even had a picture of her and sitting at my piano when I was maybe 2 or 3. My intuition is pretty good. It has never failed me, and no one has ever told me I was wrong or way off in analyzing people, things, and situations. I trust my feelings on this. I just don't have any validating explanations for what happened. What the hell was that in the hallway with a scream like a banshee? Where the hell was I if not for here? Is there something more I should be looking into or for? Here's hoping you can help me figure this shit out because it's driving me crazy. Much love. Pretty Bug. What is your take?
It's probably actually, in my opinion, one of the more crazier things that we've actually read. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why I'm stuck on it, but that thing going back and forth and more shit showing up, that just weirds me the fuck out. Actually, like it's almost like some repetitive glitch or some shit. It's fucking weird.
I think if because this seems like astral projection.
Yeah. So, yeah.
She specifically constructed the road for going from paved to going to gravel, because it's in the process of going from paved to gravel that your mind now takes on that transitionary phase, right? So you have to be thinking about what you're stepping on. So having that focus actually allows you to maybe leave the conscious realm for this sort of subconscious / astral realm. Now, if you're going into the underworld to do, go see your grandmother, eventually your living body is going to reject the experience because you don't want to die on a very subconscious level. And so maybe it sort of evoked this black and white sort of realm because did you ever see the movie The Tommyknockers?
I've seen parts of it, but not the whole thing.
But you know what I mean? They go into this realm that sort of represents the place that was, and it's being eaten by these like weird Pac-Man looking things with sharp teeth. And so it's like those are the moments that were. Those aren't the moments in the present, and those aren't the moments in the future. So in the movie, The Tommyknockers, they take off from this airport that, exists in the past, fly through the anomaly to get back to the present. They end up overshooting it into the future. And so they show up inside the airport in the future, and, basically everything appears around them when the present catches up. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. If you're constantly astrally projecting into the world of the dead, your body's going to reject that. You're going to start to see things get all funky because you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a sort of order to the whole world. And so if you're constantly doing, I think this would be an example of necromancy. It's not a bad example of necromancy, by the way, but you are communing with the dead. So in a certain sense, the body will reject it after a certain time period. If you're too close to it, you're not supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be living. So that world is kind of closed off from us a little bit because we still have our bodies. We're still in form. So that's just my take. What do you think?
I thought it was a lot like I don't know why, but I just was like more of, again, and I think I mentioned last time with Inception. I just felt like even the whole repetitive thing, she like almost reprogramming or redoing it. I don't know why I'm stuck on that one part. I just found that very weird for a dream, or it's like you're stuck in a glitch. But it was almost like felt like Inception. Maybe she was like designing it in a sense too, the experience. And I felt a lot of Stranger Things as well. I felt like I was listening to like a Stranger Things episode.
Right. I think it was merging of the two minds. So not only was she seeing it the way, it exists in sort of like this fading memory in reality, but the more she's into it, the more she sees all of the things that show up because she's merging her mind with her grandmother's mind, which I think is, probably what would happen symbolically in these different realms. Again, when you're in the symbolic realm of the astral, symbolic things are going to happen. And you have to be the one to see and understand what symbols are being showed to you, because that's your mind trying to communicate to you, that's your subconscious trying to communicate to you, and that's your body trying to communicate to you in different ways in what you're seeing around you. So, yeah, I think it was a very powerful dream, but, at some time.
That was probably one of my favorite, honestly, and not to play favorites, but I really enjoyed that one. I think it was so stuck in the story, I wasn't really trying to decipher it.
Thank you very much, Donald Ferguson. $5.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. I saw someone, I think Bad Hat. I see that Bad Hat. It says, "Oh my God, Headless, I'll send you my dreams." So we're expecting that. We saw it. Gonna keep it to your word.
Absolutely. So I think that was a great email. I think if you guys have more of them. Remember, we're still taking mall dreams. We're going to probably have a mall dream that we're doing next week, so tune in for that one. But I think there is something to these mall dreams. If you guys are into it, make sure to tune in, and we will see you again next time. Nick, do you have any?
No, just if people, the Occult Rejects, check us out. If you're interested, we're doing a live in about another fucking 10 minutes, so. You could jump up over there, or stay here on Headless's channel because he'll be streaming it anyway. So, yeah, if you want to check out some Mars, Red Planet Blue, or Blue Planet Red, I'm fucking it up, but whatever, check it out. I'm really excited for it. Actually, cool guy too. So,
absolutely, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Later.